Dumela, Saubona, Sakpase, Namaste, Obshin, Dubroota, Assalamu alaikum, Hotep. Welcome to the Digital Couch. Welcome to another episode of the Digital Couch. This is season 2, 10, 5, and one more, 16, episode 16. On the Digital Couch tonight is an amazing perspective on what do you do with solitude? What do you do when you're shut in, shut away from a lot of the people that you know and that you love? And during the past year and a half, 2 years for some people, how do you cope with that? If what you see outside your window is one static image, what can you do with that static image to process, to bring you some hope, peace, and to also see how the world is changing, but maybe you only see it through looking at that one object? Tonight on the Digital Couch is Dr. Christine Emmons. Take a listen to how she used one vision during 14 months and processed and helps other people to process a situation that we did not expect. Let's welcome Dr. Christine Emmons.
Miss Dorielle, good night. It's such a pleasure to be here chatting with you. I love your setup. You did such a fabulous job setting this up. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's give a shout out to Dr. Christine Emmons, first of all. Yay, hooray.
Thank you.
We're going to go through a couple of different conversations, but the focus of the conversation is going to be a book of poetry that she crafted. I love the title, and of course, I love what goes into it. So we're going to talk about that tonight, and we're also going to get her. Here we go. There we go. There is her website. It is www.SCEPTAR-eds.com, and we're going to talk more about it. So Dr. Christine Emmons, I'm going to call you Dr. Christine on this show tonight. You know what we do, folks. First of all, we have our mug. What are you sipping tonight, Dr. Emmons?
Just water, Miss Dorielle. Just water.
Okay, we have something other than water, but it's still good. So we need that. We need you to share. We need you to call out people from a couple of different categories. First of all, Dr. Emmons and I, we have like a little rivalry. Y'all gonna hear about it as we do this introduction. Let me get into it. First of all, Dr. Emmons is from a country that is dear and near to a couple of people out there. So I want you to first tell folks where you're from. I want you to give the shout outs to all the people, all the communities that have raised you and made you the person to whom you are today. And some people are watching. So those people are watching, share it with these groups. And then we're going to get into how you and I are kind of like butt heads a little bit. Go ahead.
We will. Well, good night, everyone. I'm from a tiny country in the Caribbean called Grenada. Technically, it should be Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. My grandmother was from Petit Martinique. My mother was born there, but she was raised in St. Andrews. And my father was born and raised in St. Andrews. So shout out to my Labe people from Grenada, all my relatives and friends and neighbors. You know who you are. Shout out to you all. So that's number one. Then I'm going to shout out to my friends and teachers from my very first school, which is St. Andrews RC School, aka Old Church. So go Old Church. Then I'm going to shout out to my teachers and friends from St. Joseph's Convent in Grenville. So shout out to you, all of my St. Joseph Convent friends and sisters and classmates. Shout out to you. I'm going to go from that to where I taught, which is St. Mary's RC School in Lafayette. So I'm doing a shout out to my colleagues there, the teachers there, those who are there now, those who are with me before, and the students I taught. and the students who are there now, I got a really, really beautiful text from one of my past students. It almost made me cry. It was so appreciative. So thank you for sending that text. So shout out to St. Mary's RC School. Then I'm going to go to Grenada Teachers College, and I'm going to do a shout out to my teachers and classmates from the Grenada Teachers College. Let me breathe. So that's my Grenada people.
I love it. I love it.
Further afield. All right.
That's right. That's right. Now let's talk about New England.
No, we're not going to New England yet.
Uh-oh.
New England just now. We're going to go to the Caribbean first. So I'm going to do a shout out to my University of the West Indies folks. My professors there, and my colleagues there, and my course mates there. Shout out to you wherever you are. And I know you still pay attention, because when I search myself, I see you have me as one of your people. So there you are. And then I'm going to go. I'm coming to Connecticut, Miss Doriel. I'm almost there. Just
right.
one more.
Let's go.
I'm going to do a shout out to University of Western Ontario in London, Ontario, and to my professors and classmates there. Shout out to you. I know you still send me email from there from the alumna. We're gonna keep talking. And I'm going to do a shout out to Yukon. Go Huskies!
Now she had to bring it. Where's my camel? Wait a minute. So I don't usually do this, but because she happened to say, I don't usually do this. I only usually break rank, but I'm going to break rank right now. Hold on. Keep talking.
And you think I don't have my husky, huh?
Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Camels always go together. Here we go.
Let me see your camel. All right, there's your camel.
One hump camel. Okay, so let me just explain this to folks, because y'all know some of you are watching on live, some of you watching on the replay. Whenever anybody from Connecticut College hears that there's another person who's in another Connecticut university or college in the state, we have to make it known. We are Connecticut College. CC. We are not UConn.
Yeah.
No, there's a big difference. Do not confuse us. Okay, done with that.
So you got to make that plain.
We have to make it plain. So let's focus on the fact that you are.
Let me do one more shout out, because some of my colleagues, they may not be happy if I don't. So I'll do shout out to my Yale people, my Yale colleagues and friends there, and supporters there. Shout out to you too. I don't want you to
Yale. Okay, Yale. All right. I'll give that to you. Excellent. So now everybody knows where you started, where you came up, and now you're here. You're here on the digital couch. So I do want to take a step just before we hop into the focus of the conversation. You are Dr. Christina Emmons.
Yeah.
Proud EDD?
PhD.
Sorry.
Educational psychology.
Yes. So educational psychologist, in a nutshell, what does that do?
Well, it could do a number of things, because it really studies how children learn.
Okay.
And best ways to teach and the situations in which they learn. I focus on right now I focus on two things in my work, right? I study, organize, and share information on how the places where children live and learn affect who they become. Because I know that the family I was born into and raised, and the communities that I was born into and raised in, had a big impact on my life. And now we have a lot of science to show how important home environments are, and how important school environments and community environments are. Because yes, it does take a village to raise a child. And the second part is how to create environments that would help children become healthy, resilient, and able to fulfill their potential. So that's my passion.
I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. All right. Now I get it. Now I get it. So one thing that we're definitely going to focus on tonight is why you got called to the couch. Why you got called to the couch.
Yeah.
So I'll give my perspective, and then you're going to fill in, and then we're going to talk about a couple of pieces in the
Okay.
text that you wrote. I'm going to put a timestamp on this. This
Yeah.
is, and for the purpose of the conversation, it is the middle of April of 2022. So for those of you who hear this in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? This is 2022, 2 years ago and 1 month, 2 years and 1 month ago, this part of the world that we live in shifted positions. We did a 180-degree turn. We went from being out to coming in and staying in for much, much longer than we intended. And for the entire world, it was a huge shock. It was more than a shock. And a number of people processed that shock differently based on where your home is or where you decided to shelter in place. Some people were had the opportunity to shelter in place in a place other than their home. So some people traveled, some people went wherever they went, but they left their neighborhood, the city, the state. Some people left the country before it got locked down, and they were able to be in a place that maybe it wasn't familiar to them, maybe it was a little familiar, but you were actually in a place that is your home. And what you saw for that next period of time was one image. And that one image didn't sort of take you in, but it brought you out. And it allowed a lot of things to blossom, all pun intended, in a way that you did not necessarily intend. So I'd love for you to take us through what happened over those 14 months for you. And we're going to get into the nexus of your text, which I will show when you begin speaking about it.
Yes. Well, as you say, in February, there were a little bit of rumblings about what might be happening with COVID. And then in March, it became much more intense. And I think it was towards the end of March that we got the lockdown. And so you couldn't go anywhere, essentially. You had to be in your house. And if you went anywhere, it was in a big open park. And Connecticut has a lot of parks. But for the most part, I had to be in my house by myself. And so there was no socializing, there was no going anywhere. And of course, I had my work. And but you know, you have your work, but there are other things that you need to do. And growing up, I was taught really by my grandmother and mother to make the most of things. You know, whatever you have, you appreciate it. You enjoy the simple things of life. You give God thanks for where you are and whatever you have. And so after a while, because I couldn't go anywhere, I have big picture windows in my house. And I'm fortunate in that across the street, there is a pond and there's a small park there. And I have beautiful trees around the house. So after a while, I started to take pictures. I started to observe things that I never paid attention to before. I was like, oh, that beautiful tree. I never really noticed it before, you know? So let me take a picture. And then I said, oh, these little birds are running around playing, you know, pecking. They're so beautiful. Let me take a picture. So I started to take pictures. And one day it occurred to me, well, you know, why don't you write a poem about each of these pictures? And I said, okay, I'm going to write a poem a day, you know, and that sort of harkens back to my grandmother always telling us stories, you know, and we could talk a little bit more about that later. So I started to write a poem a day, just trying to, what I do when I have a lot of deep emotions. I didn't just start in writing poems like 2 years ago. I have been writing poems, but very inconsistently. Usually when I'm moved by something that's hurt at you, that's either beautiful or painful, or you know, something that moves me. So I decided, okay, I'm going to write a poem a day, and match it with the photograph that I took. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to write a reflection. What does this mean to me? What am I getting out of this? And no, I didn't write a poem every day, but I wrote a poem for many, many of the days. And I took a lot more pictures than I wrote poems. And on the weekends, a friend and I would go to one of the parks where we can social distance and wear our mask. And I wrote poems about those too, but those are not in that book. So that's how it started. And then I started sharing this with relatives and friends. And they said, oh, this is interesting. Why don't you write a book? I didn't set out to write a book. But I had so many poems after a while. And I said, okay, let me do this. Let me put this together into a book. And one of the things I noticed was that over the years, I could see what happens when the seasons change. And so I was documenting the flow of seasons from the spring to the summer to the autumn to the fall, and then back into the spring. And therefore I saw how things came back a little bit differently, but I could see that circle of life.
So let's pause for a moment. So this is the book. Now I'm not sure if can you read it? Is it reversed?
I could see the heading outside my house.
Okay, good.
If you bring it closer, I will be able to see. Yes, now you can read the entire title.
So this is the text. This is the book. If you go to SCEPTAR-Eds.com. Yes?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I sent you an Amazon link.
So we'll send the Amazon link.
The Amazon link. This Amazon link will take you directly there.
No problem. So let me just hold it up closer. It's Outside My House, A Journey Through Nature During COVID Lockdown, April 20th to May 2021. So that means, and I'll just flip through it, and this is kind of how it flows. There's a photograph, and then there's a poem.
Yes.
Beautiful. And then at the end, it's almost like there's an affirmation. Some may call it an affirmation. Some may call it a reflection. Oh, she calls it a reflection. But it was really, really amazing how all of the... Now, wait. Hold on. There are 60...
60 poems, yes.
60 photographs, 60 short, whether it be a sonnet. They're not in, like... what do you call it? Like rhyming stanzas, like AAB. No. It's prose, but it's so amazing.
A lot of them, there is a lot of rhyming, and some of them have what we call iambic pentameter, because in some cases I deliberately did that, but I think that they all rhyme. They're not all AABB or whatever it is, but there is a rhyming scheme.
Beautiful variety of stanzas and the different meters. And I thought it was amazing how during this 14 months, how that was the way that you channeled. Now, side note, some people took this sheltering in place and decided to reach for things that they ate that we are still trying to figure out how to shed. Some of us took up hobby. Some people took to the kitchen. Some people tried to read. A lot of people tried to keep their children or their grandchildren or whoever a young person was around. And you decided to pick up your camera, a pen, and a pad and produced poetry. The other reason why this conversation, and those of you who may not know, when we content creators, when we try to schedule having conversations, sometimes it just flows. It's like, hey, why don't we just chat next week? Or they may have an event and it's like, oh, coordinated with the event. But in this situation, I've known about Dr. Christine for a while, and I said, wait, it's poetry? It's about the earth? Why not have it around Earth Day? And it's poetry. And for those of you who may not know, April is Poetry Month. Not really sure if you knew that, but you know now. So this is the perfect opportunity to have this piece of work outside my house and Dr. Christine sharing it with us. And I know it's just come out, what, 2 months ago, 3 months
Yes,
ago?
February. Yes.
So 2 months ago. So it's fresh. It's fresh off the press. And it's a great read of just reflection. And I think during the past 2 years, we have had so much time for reflection that who would have thought to have this work come out of looking at one tree during the seasons and how that tree has changed, how life has changed, how life goes away, comes back. It's so amazing to have a perspective like that. When at a time where we didn't realize how our lives were going to be impacted and what your focus was,
Hmm.
you focused on life.
Yes.
You
Yes.
focused on life.
And what was all around my house? The animals, the trees, the flowers, the birds, and what that meant. I wanted to have all of the reflections, all of the affirmations be uplifting, you know, be I wanted it to be almost like a stress reliever, but also something that would sort of be healing and uplifting at the same time.
And it does just that. It does just that. Do you mind if I share one?
Oh, you can share more than one.
Okay. So I'll share one. Now, those of you who, let's say, took English, and everyone had to take English, in high school. But if you studied English and studied prose, or you studied poets, E. Cummings, Keats, help me here. Even Phyllis Wheatley, like any
Yeah.
serious writers of, I want to say, let's just say days of yore,
Okay.
because I'm not going to get into
Yes.
right, right.
Numbers.
So here's
Okay.
one, and it's
Okay.
called Muted Morning.
Oh.
Not, and this was written December 13th, 2020. Not a whistler, but it could be. The calming muted hues, the blurred lines merging tree into tree, the fog brushed grayish blue, blending land and sky. A house stands quietly to the side, blending its brown and white into the scene. The dark low hedge beside it, harmonizing with the muted green on the ground. The low sun with its large orange halo barely gives light, out just to say hello, happy to merge into this sight. I just need a cup of tea. I just need a cup of tea. And then the reflection is our brain smiles when we make connections between different things. And this is the image.
Yes.
That is just beautiful. Like literally, I would want to hear, and this is your hint, I would
Uh-huh.
want to hear this. I can just totally imagine hearing this, like spoken. We have Audible. Why can't we have Audible poems?
Yes.
Here for it. I'm here for it. Anybody else out there would want to like hear some of these poems? So definitely you want to pick up the book. You want to be able to, share it, of course, with those people who with loved ones, even with like young people. Like young people
Yes.
don't even
Yes.
study poetry the way we used to study poetry. Not many teachers will like take out the time and say, let's focus for a couple of
Mhm.
weeks during the school year on poetry. It's
Yes.
healing to the mind and soul. You've
Yeah.
done that. You've done that with this work during a time when
Thank you.
everybody is losing it. Let's be real, Dr. Christine.
But you see, the thing is, I go back to having to give props to my upbringing, you know, particularly
Mhm.
my mother and my grandmother, because we didn't have a lot of toys growing up. So we were kind of forced to be creative in terms of play, in terms of we made, well, some people might know what I mean by nanate. I don't know. Nanate is where you mix mud and water and you pretend you're baking. You put it in little tin cups and you put it in the sun to get hard, and we call it nanate. So
Wow.
we would pretend we're baking. We would take um, the leaves of the coconut tree, and we would make it into little watches and little shoes, and and say, okay, now we're going to St. George's, we're going to town. So we created a lot of the games that we played, and so we were able to use our imaginations for a lot of things. And I think sometimes people think that not having a lot of wealth is poverty. No, poverty of the mind is real poverty, because regardless,
Hold on. Say
hold
that.
on,
Say that again. Somebody type that in the chat because I can't type and listen at the same time.
okay,
Poverty of the mind. Poverty
is
of the mind.
is real poverty.
Amen to that.
Because when you have a creative mind, when when you're able to take small things and then do a lot with it, when you're able to, and that's how we grew up in the Caribbean. I know that's how we grew up in Grenada, and I think that's true of a lot of Caribbean countries, where most people didn't have a lot, but people were creative in the use of what they had, and were very generous also in terms of sharing. And so growing up, the value that I learned was, one of it was to appreciate what you have and to make most of what you have. And so that's what I did. It's sort of, without thinking about it, it transfers into your adult life, you know. And so that's partly what happened. And of course, my grandmother was a great storyteller. And she told stories that fell into what I'd call three categories. I
Oh,
want to highlight
okay.
because I think,
Hold on a
go ahead.
second. My stream team is doing their thing. So I already had somebody. Thank you to my folks from the South who put in poverty of the mind is real poverty. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for typing and make the most of what you have. So Dr. Christine is going to give us 3 different categories. Stream team, y'all better show up. Category number 1 is what? Give it to us.
Category number 1 is family history. It is so important, I think, for parents and grandparents and relatives to tell children about the family history. It gives you a very strong sense of self, who you are, where you're coming from, and that helps to build your resilience. So even if people try to knock you down, you know who you are. You can get up again, you can stand up again, because you know from where you came. And I'm not sure that that is being done now, but that is something I encourage. It's helpful in a number of ways. It helps develop language. It helps develop listening and writing skills. And it helps with a sense of self, pride in who you are. So that's one of the things that my you want me to pause there. Okay.
No, I was actually just saying family. That's number 1. All right, ready for number 2.
Family history. Number
Okay.
2 is values, stories that had a meaning, that taught you lessons without actually saying, I want you to be respectful, I want you to be kind, I want you to allow yourself to be disciplined because I'm doing it for your good. It's instead of saying it like that, we were told stories. We were told these little fables, but you enjoyed the story, but you knew what the lesson was. Okay. And I think that is just that was very, very important. And you remember, these stories.
You better remember these stories, because if you didn't, they was gonna be told to you again.
Yep.
And then
and they were told over and over again, and you enjoyed it in the moonlight, eating roast corn. And
roast corn, you guys.
yes.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
And the third one is folk tales. Caribbean, Grenadian folk tales, Carriacou folk tales. Just things. Like Nancy stories. How they are fairy tales. Well, it's like that, folk tales. And sometimes a story might be both family history and values and folk tales rolled into one. Sometimes we have that. I'll just give you one quick example, okay?
Sure.
and it's called, my grandmother always used to tell us stories about Kikam Jenny, okay, and how the sailors would be would be would be scared of traveling in that area where Kikam Jenny was, and that sometimes when it's quiet they would say, oh, the lady is calm today, all right, or sometimes it would be very rough. Now, growing up, I just thought this was a folk story, a folk tale. Several years ago, I learned Kikam Jenny is a real thing. It's an underwater volcano between Carriacou and Grenada. See, so I mean, so I didn't know when she was telling. So these stories were based on truth because her brother was a captain of a ship. Okay, and so that was melded with other folk tales about Laja Bless and all of that. And I'm writing those stories now because I don't want them to be forgotten.
Right. Actually, I was gonna say, because in my mind, and this is just how I operate, when I hear information like that, if you couldn't hear me typing, I would be typing in another tab. Like, wait, what is Kikam Jenny? I'm gonna go call, the people that I know in my extended family who are from Grenada, and I know that they're gonna be watching this tonight. Hello, who's Kikam Jenny? And do we also have something similar, like when you said Nana Day?
Nanate.
So Nanate. So I'm thinking, I mean, I didn't grow up in the South. I didn't grow up in the Caribbean, but we made our own little mud pies, we pretended. And so I always think across the diaspora, right?
Yes.
Wherever Africans have been dropped off, passed through, set on the shore. We're not going to get into that tonight, but we all carry the same type of play with that which we have.
Yes.
And it's called something different. And it's so crucial, and you know this better than I, how important it is to continue to tell these, as you said, family history, values, and folktales about how we may do, right? How we may do. When you said taking the leaves of coconut or coconut shells and making watches, the first thing I thought of was, how you gonna make a watch with coconut? And then when you said shoes, I'm like, shoes? What kind of, you putting coconut shells on your feet?
Coconut leaves.
Somebody got to help me with that. Listen, to all my Grenadian family, when I see you this weekend, my Grenadian family, y'all help me out. Help me figure this out, okay? Because I'll be looking this up after we finish. But help me out. Help me understand this. So this is amazing. This is amazing. So this work of definitely you being in education, and I know you raised some family members while they were doing study in school. Your dedication to scholarship, your dedication to authorship, your dedication to translating, as you said, family history, values, folk tales, and now you're taking some of the tales from days of yore. From the griots in your family, your mother, your grandmother, and I'm sure other extended family members and folks down the road, or the medicine women, or
oh my goodness,
the women who helped birth children, the old-fashioned midwives, all of those, all of that lore, all of that family lore, you're definitely taking the opportunity to craft it, right, to write it down. So although this is probably just your first published work, I'm sure it's not going to be your last. I know you have children's stories. I know you have what would they be called, like anthologies of family lore coming. I do hope that you'll be able to share that here on the digital couch.
I am hoping so too.
Good. Well, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. We're going to do that.
Yes,
so
we're
going to have a lot of side conversations. So one thing, if there are any people who are, so actually we have some family members who said, yay, La Bay. I'm so happy that they're shouting out places in Grenada. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for my stream team. Is there anything that because I do want you to sort of connect this to the work that you're doing with SCEPTAR. So those people who are
Okay.
just popping in, we're speaking to Dr. Christine Emmons of SCEPTAR.eds.com. She has her PhD in educational psychology. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
All right, ed psych. Okay, if I just keep saying ed
That's
psych,
right.
right, ed psych from University of Connecticut.
Mhm.
Second best school. But anyway,
We're not gonna fight, okay?
that's right. No, we're not gonna fight. No, my camel's gonna speak for me. But
Okay.
who's definitely the author of a text outside my house. We definitely want to give to plug this, and we'll plug the link for Amazon for the book in the description once we finish this tonight. But if there's anything that you would be able to connect to SCEPTAR.eds, eds. So what is it that you help people do? Do you specifically work with families, or do you work with schools, or do you work with counselors? Do you do presentations and workshops, or do you do one-to-one? Like, how is it that you're taking SCEPTAR and supporting young people or parents or teachers? Like, tell us how this work connects.
Okay. I mostly do presentations with educators.
Okay.
But that would include teachers, principals, parents too. Because usually parents would be part of the group. Counselors could be part of the group. So whatever group that whoever from that school that they want me to present to, I would do presentations. Sometimes, like in 2015, was it? Or later, I did one primarily for parents. That was primarily for parents. Generally, it's a mix, but mostly educators. What I'm trying to transition to now is to provide information mostly online and through publications. So SCEPTAR is the business name, but I'm looking at a website that I've started which would be primarily for teachers, and one which would be primarily for parents. Particularly parents in the Caribbean diaspora, because that's my background. But the information would be relevant to whoever wants to pay attention to it, because it's based in the science that I have learned over the past few decades. I have been very fortunate in two ways. One, in helping to raise a beautiful young lady who is now doing her studies to be a physician, an MD this time.
That's right.
And that has been one of the most glorious experiences of my life, because I learned so much from just helping to raise her. So that was a wonderful experience for me. When she was in high school, she lived with me, and I was one of the co-parents.
Yes.
At that time. So that was a wonderful experience for me. The other part of it is that being at Yale, working at Yale at the Child Study Center and in the School of Medicine, I attended so many conferences and workshops, and still today, the grand rounds. I mean, I have heard presentations from several Nobel laureates, okay? And plus so many other presentations from people who are top in their field in that area. Understanding the importance of social environment, of the places where children live and learn, how that impacts who they become in their physiology, in their brains. How a child's brain forms up to a point. It's an interaction between the genes and the environment. And so it's so important to build the kind of environment that would help children's brains develop well, that would help them be able to manage their lives well, to have good self-management, to be motivated, to be excited about learning, and to understand themselves, so that they can be successful in life. so that they can have, they can reach their potential. So I mean, so I look at so many. I am privileged to have information about the science, and when I do presentations, I talk about that, um, and also personal experience, and from my own personal experience, growing up, from helping to raise others, and also from stories that I read about other people's lives. It's, the experiences that children have are so important in forming who and what they become. And we as the adults have such a responsibility to help shape those environments. So that's what my work is about. And I want to be able, and I welcome people's comments. I welcome feedback. I am not a know-it-all. There are lots of things I don't know. There are things that I'm learning, so there are things that parents know that I don't know. There are experiences that parents have that I have never had and never will have. But I think that we can work together and bring our knowledge together to make the places the best that we can for our kids. And so I am eager to share what I have learned and to learn from others as well. And so that is what my work is about. And I'm trying to transition more and more to online in terms of sharing that information and publishing that information in articles and books. And this book is not directly on the topic, outside my house, a journey through nature during COVID lockdown, April 2020 to May 2021. But I look at it as a stress reliever, because stress could really have a negative impact on our health. And so this is a contribution to stress relief, to enjoyment in a very difficult time. So you notice I'm not having anything negative in that book at all. It's just things to help people relax, and also to make people think well of themselves and lift their spirits. When you feel down, when you feel, like things are not going your way, when you feel that people might want to put you down or you don't get the support that you need, the reflections are a way of also lifting you up. So that's how it ties into my work. It's one of the contributions to create material in that could be in homes and schools that could be uplifting
And I think
and
you have done
inspirational.
right. You have done just that. Just the text in and of itself, because we are bombarded, and that's a drop in the bucket,
Mhm,
bombarded with data, with uh, counts of people who have been stricken,
mhm,
homes that have been affected, businesses.
mhm,
We need a little positive
mhm,
salve
mhm,
for the soul.
mhm,
And what better salve than a shifting of perspectives,
mhm,
of looking at something that, for the most part, you might pass every day without
mhm,
focusing on it.
mhm.
And you've taken 60 moments, and I'm sure there were more, but these are just the ones that got culled and placed ever so
Yes.
gently into this text, Outside My Home, A Journey Through Nature During COVID Lockdown, April 2020 to May
Mhm,
2021.
mhm,
And you've given a little, like a little rose when we were kind of focusing on the thorns.
mhm.
And I think,
Yes.
oh,
And it could stimulate people to want to do their own writing.
right, that as well. That too.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
too. So, and listen, if Dr. Christine can do it,
Yeah.
so can you.
So can you.
So I want to thank you so much for being on the digital couch tonight.
Thank you for
Those people,
inviting me. I greatly
yes,
appreciate it.
it's the beginning of conversations. We're going to have more conversations about your work.
We
Uh, I,
will.
I want to thank the people who are watching. So you definitely have some folks from Grenada. You have some folks from,
Hello.
from your environment. You're going to have more people who are going to be dropping by, because this is going to be one of the amazing viral videos from the digital couch that we're going to share with everyone. Those people who are watching, again, if you know anyone listen, Grenada is small. Carriacou, Petite Martinique, very, very tiny islands. So a lot of people know a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people are connected, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
let's share the Grenada
Yeah.
love. Let's share the anybody from UWI, University of West
Yes.
Indies. Y'all are connected. Let's just share the love. Let's share
Yeah.
the amazing work that Dr. Christine has put forth on the table. She put forth through a vision. She put forth through her pen, and now it is in a book. The first, of course, of many. And we will drop the link, the Amazon link, for you to get your own version. And if you want to connect with Dr. Christine, even though she may be a state over from where I am in New York. She's in Connecticut. She is right on 95
Yeah.
or 84. You didn't think I knew that, right? 84. Right on down. Come right on down. Merrick Turnpike. She can come right on down, right on across, and do some work. And because now we're still in a very digital platform, then it's just as I say, the push of a live button, and she'll be right there with you to support educators, to support counselors, administration, parents, for the children, all for the children, whether it is through storytelling, whether it is through, this poetry work, or it's through how does your environment impact the life and the growth and the development of children. Transferring the knowledge of parents, which is definitely what we've been talking about, grandparents, teaching the traditions, teaching the history, passing on things that don't necessarily get written in books. For those of you who don't know, and because I have folks of many different backgrounds that will come into this conversation, folks of the African diaspora, we are very, very strong in oral storytelling. And so whereas one or two other communities may have a lot of things written down, we have that as well. But we pass things down through stories that get morphed. And then there are always lots of bits of truth in them, and lots of bits of actual places, actual people, actual events.
Yes.
If you're figuring out like who Nancy is, it is the Anansi folk tales that actually come from West Africa, came through the Caribbean, and so it's Nancy, and then turned into Brer Rabbit in the South. Come on. I know my stories. Don't get me to start. I know my stories.
I see you know.
I know my stories. So this is a beautiful conversation. Again, it's just the beginning of many. And I look forward to a lot of people reaching out to you again, whether it's one-on-one, groups, presentations, small group work, studies, advocacy, whatever it is. But we want to make sure our children continue to grow who they are by doing some sankofa work, right? So reaching back in order to move forward.
Moving forward, yes.
And recognizing that the village that will raise one will raise other people as well.
Yes. And you can reach me on SCEPTAR too. There's a contact me form. Contact us. You can send me an email.
Most definitely. So folks, please just make sure you that banner right below, right there, SCEPTAR-EDS.com. Hey, good evening. I actually see some of my family showing up. I see you, fam. Is here as well. So we just want to make sure that as many people as possible can share this information. This is Dr. Christine Emmons, an ed psych PhD in the house on the
educational psychologist. Yes.
Educational psychologist. And we want to make sure that you share the work with whoever it is that needs it. So any final words, Dr. Christine Emmons, before we roll out of here?
Just want to say thank you for inviting me, and thank everyone who is listening and all those who have nurtured and supported me over the years. I want you to know I appreciate you, and just thank you so much.
You're welcome. So everyone,
our children are our treasure.
Yes, ma'am. So I want once again, I want everyone to just take a look at Dr. Christine Emmons' website, and that is SCEPTAR-EDS.com. And we'll see you all next week on the digital couch. It might be our next to the last broadcast for it is the next to last broadcast for the month. During May, we will be taking a short hiatus because it is a very special month for me. Hint, hint, hint. Hint, hint, hint. So if you don't know, you're going to find that out.
Okay.
But peace and blessings. This is a Learn to Grow You moment where I plant seeds to help you grow. My name is Doriel Inez Laria, and shout out to my mama who is here again. She is my cheerleader. So I see you, Mom. I know you're there. And I want to make sure that everyone has a great week. Welcome to spring. Welcome to spring. Welcome to blossoms. Welcome to birds chirping, even though they're getting a little freaked out because it is freezing outside. But welcome to spring, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Same time, same day. This is the Digital Couch where inspirational leaders impact, influence, and sometimes teach people to live their life better than they did yesterday. Have a good night.